Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. But, you know, we're working in collaboration with WomELLE magazine and gladly bringing to you 25 powerful women to follow for Women's History Month. I'm here with another powerful woman. And when you read her resume, when you look at her body of work, it's no surprise that she's on this list. She's found digitally. She's found in print. My goodness, I have fallen in love with the articles that she writes concerning leadership and just what does this thing look like of us being entrepreneurs, putting on all the pieces together. She's been writing for WomELLE magazine for some time. So Tracie L. James, I am so glad to meet you. You are a business growth strategist, consultant, speaker, author of Excuse Proof Leadership. Let's get into this.
Wow. I had to look down for a second because I was like, is she talking about me?
See, sometimes there's people like you who know a whole, you know about marketing, you know about sales. I know that you know about human behavior because you have to be able to pull all this under one umbrella. But today, dear lady, we're going to expound upon the work that you have done about taking away excuses. I think that is so vibrant a subject. And your book, Excuse Proof Leadership, did you write that book with teams in mind, with the solo entrepreneur in mind? What were you thinking about when you put pen to paper?
Well, the book itself initially came from me sitting down with my coach and talking about my experiences in corporate America, building sales teams. And one of the things that just kept coming out in the conversation was the fact that because I'm a trained dancer. I grew up dancing, jazz, modern, and there was one key mantra when you're a dancer. There are no excuses. Get in there, learn the step, learn the technique, perfect it, perform it at 110%. That's it. So it doesn't matter if it's difficult. It doesn't matter if it's tough. The ultimate goal is figure out how to learn it, how to perform it at your highest level. So I took that into my corporate career, and that's just how I functioned. It didn't matter if someone discounted me because I was a woman. Didn't matter if it was because I was young, and definitely didn't matter because I was African American. In many situations, I was, if not the only, I was one of the, either only female, only the youngest one. In some shape, form, or fashion, I was the only. So I had to learn how to overcome all of that. No excuses allowed. Just keep pressing forward and finding the solutions.
Wow. That's why you come, this is the first time I met you, but that's why in everything I read about you, I thought, this is a woman of excellence. Now I understand that's where that comes from. Tracie, when we think about, you are a business growth strategist and you have the small business and entrepreneur in mind. So small business does not mean small poquito business. It means opening up our mindsets. So will you apply excuse proof to being an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. There is no way to be an entrepreneur if you're not excuse proof, if you're not focused on solutions. Without that type of mindset, you'll give up because this is hard. Being self-employed, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And when you get into it, if you didn't have the fortitude and the mindset of saying that I'm going to figure out how to get past this. I'm going to figure out how to get the funding I need. I'm going to figure out how to find the right people for my team. I'm going to figure out how to get people buying my product, buying my service. That's not an easy thing to do, but it's necessary in order to be successful. And, you mentioned about small business. The truth of the matter is you stop being a small business when you begin to have annual revenues of $5 million. Now let's think about that. For a $4 million annual revenue business, it's considered a small business by the Small Business Administration. That's small business. So when you really begin to take a look at it, there's no way you can build a $4 million business without having that mindset that no matter what happens, I'm going to seek out the solution.
Yeah, yeah. And we see that every day. I think would you agree, the reason why so many businesses, maybe they could have stuck it out during the pandemic a little bit longer, but they got faint of heart, fearful of what the news was saying, fearful of what the government was saying. You think that really wiped a lot of people out before they really should have thrown in the towel?
Unfortunately, yes. And just being very transparent, and that's who I am. Those of you who have never heard me talk before, I'm very transparent about the fact that I have my own struggles. I battle with being depressed. I battle with being in a space of being like, you know what, I'm done. I give up. I'm done with this. But last year was tough for us all. And while, you know, right there at the end of March last year, when things shut down, I was still okay. I was still cool. Oh, it'll be down. We'll be shut down for a few weeks. It's going to be fine. My depression didn't hit me until the end of April, early May, when events began to be canceled. Mm-hmm. When contracts that hadn't been signed, they said, hey, we're not moving forward with this. And literally, I started to see my revenue numbers go in the opposite direction of where I wanted them to go. And so you had to take a moment to take a breath. And that's the good thing. That's the strategy. That's a trick for me, is to take a moment and take a breath when I start to feel that overwhelm. And then begin to think through, well, that's out of my control. Mm-hmm. But what is in my control? What is in your control all the time is how you react. And so ultimately, it's about reacting and being focused on finding a way to overcome it. You know, that whole concept of either get over it, around it, or press through it. Whatever you got to do, you just got to get past it. And that's really and truly what excuses are for us. They are those things that we have to overcome. We get comfortable with excuses. It's easy. Oh, girl, I just don't have time to do that. Yeah, I don't feel like doing that. Well, you know, I just don't think that's what I was called to do. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
We give all of those excuses, but ultimately, what do we benefit when we give an excuse? What do we benefit when we accept excuses from other people? Nothing. It's complete nothingness when it comes down to excuses.
That's in your face. Now, see, people thought you going to soft pedal around that. There's really no soft pedaling around excuses. I read somewhere where you say that where did I have that? Excuses create issues. Bottom line, they create more issues for you than you can ever imagine. You know, I was listening to you, and I want to hang on to that excuses create issues, but I also heard you, I think that I heard you say that we get around and we go over the excuses. That's what they're built for. But it seems to me also that is a perfect time for us to grow up in our emotions and not let them, when we take that step back, say, emotions, now you're not running this. You're not even going to try to decide this. I got too much on the line for you to be messing with me now. So what do you say to emotions because the emotions are there, the so-called reality is there? How do you handle your emotions while you're stepping back?
You know, for me, it's the breath. It's in the breath. Taking yoga, Pilates, teaching yourself how to center yourself so that you are able to understand the emotion is there. I get it. It's there. It's real. The fear, the doubt, the overwhelm, it's there. But you have to make a decision to either give into it and just stay stuck, or you're going to press through it. And I've learned now that when I'm afraid of something and I'm starting to make those excuses about, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. This looks like it's going to be too difficult, or, you know, we've got to try and find the money for it, or we got to find the people. You begin to give into that fear and doubt when you begin to give all of those excuses. And we call them reasons. I'm going to say that. We call them reasons. Well, this is the thing. When you give that reason, the flip side of it is, how do you turn it into a solution? And so you have to be willing to overcome the issue of excuses so that you can get to the solution. I mean, and it's not easy, but you have to make the decision. I choose to use fear as a motivator. If I'm afraid to take on a new client, if I'm afraid to take on a new opportunity, I see that as the enemy saying to me, I don't need you going there because a blessing is on the other side of it. So then in that moment, I make that decision. I'm going over it. I'm going into my blessing. And that's what I speak to myself. I am a woman of faith. I don't hide that fact because I feel like you cannot say you are a person of faith if you give excuses. God doesn't operate in excuses.
Wow.
His blessings come despite our shortcomings. He's there to provide what we don't need, what we don't currently have.
Yes. But it is our duty, our responsibility to not give in to the excuses and just keep pressing on. Find the solution.
Yeah. Stop playing the blame game. Because ultimately, when you get into that space of constantly making excuses, you're blaming everything outside of you. But nothing worth accomplishing has been accomplished without overcoming something that somebody said, oh, you can't do that. I love for people to tell me what I can't do. I do. When I was 17, my senior year in high school, I got pregnant. And everyone said, well, not everyone, but a lot of people said that my life was over. Just give up. You've given up all of your dreams to have a baby. Just let it go. Well, that was motivation for me because I didn't like people telling me what to do anyway. So when you said to me it was over, that gave me motivation. That's what caused me to be able to get through my undergrad in 4 years, pressing hard with a baby. I literally had my son in June of 1990. I started school in August of 1990. I got my degree. I walked across that stage at Jackson State University in 1994, in May of 1994. I went through, I had a full ride scholarship. So I had an endpoint. I had to get it done in 4 years. There was no taking a break. There was no press and pause. It was get it done. And I did that in a sense in vengeance. Because you said my life was over and I'm determined. I'm getting this degree and I'm building my career. And sometimes when somebody tells you you can't do something or you shouldn't do something, that should be your motivation. Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't happen. It's still, they were right, but it doesn't matter because you tried. Because ultimately you're going to learn something in the midst of the failure. And I think a lot of times people make excuses because they're afraid to fail. It's not that I'm not afraid to fail anymore, but I've learned to look at failures as learning opportunities. Yes. Every time I've messed something up, and trust me, I can mess some stuff up. I'm a human being. I can mess some stuff up. But every time I take that step back and I go, what did I learn? Mm-hmm. What do I need to do different the next time? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I say to my clients all the time, when I'm saying to you be excuse proof, it's not that excuses don't come up. You just don't let them stick. It's just like that stick proof pan in your kitchen.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. That stuff might stick. You might get something on it that's supposed to stick, but guess what? It has something in it that causes it not to stick to it. That's how you have to be about excuses.
I hear you say redistribute that energy that will go into your fear, that will go into that self-doubt. Oh my God, that imposter syndrome that so many people go through. So is that what I hear you saying, Tracie? Just go into it, take a pause, go into it, and redistribute that energy. Because for me, once my energy's been here, there, and everywhere, and I'm everywhere, I'm done for it. I'm done for it. Nothing's clear at that point.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's what ends up happening, is that because you got so much coming at you and you're trying to address all of it as it comes at you. And what you really should do is step back, take a breath, and go, how do I approach all of this? Because there's a way to approach it all so you're not expending energy in multiple directions. Sometimes you just need to press forward. Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing that I feel a lot of times with entrepreneurs, we're chasing everything. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we just need to take a pause and figure out, how do I address as much of this as possible with the least amount of energy? Because if you expend all that energy, you're done. If I deal with the person who said no to a speaker proposal, if I deal with the client who says you're too overpriced, if I'm trying to deal with this person over here that's telling me, no, you don't need to write another book. You've written already. You already written 2 books. Forget it. You don't need to write any more books. If I decide to address every single one of those things that are frustrating me, mm-hmm. I don't have energy to work on the new book. I don't have energy to work with the new client that wants to be there. I don't have energy to work on what's already on my plate. Those are distractions. And we have to learn when the distractions are coming. Distractions tend to come right before something amazing is going to happen in your life. You're working on something. You got your head down and you are just working. And then the distractions start. Well, the distractions are intended to stop you from doing what you were doing so you can expend your energy in those directions. And then you have to go, you know what? Right now, these things are not priority. This is. I got to get this done.
Yeah. Wow.
Got to get past
that. That takes discipline, owning the moment, clarity, all of those things that we have to take these things on, these traits on.
Absolutely. And one key thing that helps me is my front row. I know people talk about your circle. I call them my front row, okay? Because, like I said, I was a dancer, I was a performer, so I like using theater analogies. And so my front row, this is how I describe my front row. They start the standing ovation. If I fall on stage, they are the first there to pick me up and dust me off. If I make a mistake, they correct with love. If I truly screw something up, they still applaud me in public and correct me in private. That's my front row. When you have people in your lane who believe in you, who support you, who are truly there wanting you to be the best you can be, then when you get in these situations, they help you be excuse proof. They're there to help you, that when they see you starting to follow, like, no, get back up. And that's what I had to help me through last year, because I had stopped live streaming. I stopped posting on social media. I literally was just shutting down. And good friend on my front row called me, Tracie, what's up? What's going on? And it was done in love. And she was like, okay, we've talked about it. We've processed it. What else do you need? Okay, you good? Now I need to see you back online. Yeah. She said, oh, I'll give you a week to put your content strategy together, and then I need to see you. And it's accountability. It's love. It's support. And if you don't have those type of people around you, you need to begin to separate yourself and pray in those people you need to have around you. Because that's the reality is, that's what I had to do. Mm-hmm. What did they say? With elevation comes separation.
Yes.
As you elevate your mindset, you will elevate and reposition and begin to draw in the right people to you.
Yes. Yes. I'm thinking about the fact that there are so many people who don't have a support. They don't have a front row. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is why they have to hire on a business growth strategist. because you don't know what you don't know. How many of us foresaw what was going to happen last March? Nobody. So those that were caught with, as they say, proverbially, with their pants down, which were all of us, it's a good thing to have a front row. And there is no shame to hiring a front row. That's just what I'm thinking. What's your take on that?
Oh, not at all, because actually 3 very key people on my front row are actually paid. You know, I have a financial advisor, I have a coach, a business coach, and I have a counselor. Yeah. My front row is tight now. It wasn't always tight now. I'm just going to be real with you. It wasn't always tight. I had to be intentional. I was hanging with people I had always hung with. I still love them. I still talk to them. But when it comes down to talking through business issues, talking through my struggles personally, I had to be very intentional and strategic about what I shared, because what I found was that they loved me and they wanted things to be better for me, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to help me. So they were just there and I was just venting, but I wasn't getting any uplift. So now when I'm having that business struggle, I can sit down and talk to my business coach and be like, hey, this is the situation. How do I fix this? How do I get over this? And he's able to help me. And that's what we have to be intentional to do. If you don't have people in your family, you don't have people that are your friends or your colleagues that really get where you're trying to go, then you hire that person to help you get there. And let me tell you the trick, okay? Because there's a lot of people out here, because I've spent money on people and it came back and hit me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Because some people are really good at marketing. Okay. They're really, really good at marketing and all the smoke and mirrors. And let me tell you, this is how you figure out if that coach is right for you. Get past the smoke and mirrors. There's 2 things you got to do. Number 1, you get on a call with them, and before you get on that call, you pray that God show you who that person is. That's one key thing. The second thing is actually talk to somebody that claims to be a client. Don't just assume that the testimonials you're seeing are people who are in your situation. Sometimes it's not that the coach isn't good for you, isn't a good coach. They're just not the right coach for you. So you have to figure out who's right for you. And so if they help somebody, but this person has a completely different understanding of business, they know more than you do, they've been in business longer, you can't take and look at what they accomplished and what you can accomplish the same. It's apples and oranges. So be prayerful about it and then talk to other people. Because if I had talked to some people, I wouldn't have hired some of these folks. So I'm telling you my bought lesson. Don't buy the lesson. I'm telling you the lesson. You don't have to buy it.
I'm glad you went there, because that is such a huge subject with me. There's some people are just predators. They're predators, and early out the gate, you have all these, I want to do this. I know that I'm supposed to do this. I know that I'm supposed to build this business. And then here comes the predator. And yeah, we haven't prayed. We haven't spoken with someone we haven't spoken to someone who's worked with that person at all. So we go in and usually it's big money that's gone out. It's never a couple $100, big money.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes, I hear people say, well, you can't always trust what other people tell you. Well, you can't trust what that person's saying to you either. So the more sources of information you have before you pay something, then you do that. And I encourage you, take the $27 course, take the $50 course, and see if you get something out of that. Don't be in such a rush that you go automatically to that high dollar buy. Okay. Because my coach, Jonathan Sprinkles, I literally stalked him for almost a year before I hired him. I bought books I watched his live streams. I took some of his smaller courses. And then I finally went to one of his events. And it was at that time, then I was like, okay, you know what? I think you're exactly who I think you are. And then I started talking to people who had been his coaching clients that were at the event. And that sealed the deal. It was like, yes, that's my coach. He's it. But I stalked him for a year. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to stalk him, girl. Stalk him. Follow him on social media, every platform, and get engaged in everything that they have going on. And then sign up for the high dollar deal, because I spent some money before I found him. And
I know. But you know what? People do not take this approach. I've talked to a lot of people as a podcaster. I've done a lot of interviews, but folks are not just putting it out there like that. So Tracie L. James, you the real deal. Because you are laying it out how a person should really go into this coaching thing. If you have the idea, guess what? I agree. Buy the low hanging fruit first, and see whether or not it's a good mix. You are a business growth strategist, consultant, speaker. Oh, yes, you are author of Excuse-Proof Leadership. That's what we've been talking about, erasing the excuses. So if you follow through and take the steps that Tracie has laid out for you today, you should be able to move with some grace and speed towards solutions rather than lay dormant with an excuse. Is that what I hear you say, Tracie?
Absolutely. Because see, this is the analogy I give when it comes to being dormant or being in motion and growing. And it's that stagnant water doesn't move, doesn't flow, and nothing good grows there. Matter of fact, it stinks. You ever been around stagnant water? It stinks. Okay.
It's toxic.
And so when you think about that, if you stay in your comfort zone, you're stagnant. You're not moving. Nothing's flowing. And honestly, if you are honest about your life, if you're seriously in that stuck place, because that's where I was stuck. I hated it and it stunk. It was the worst to just be going through this monotony over and over and over again. Go to work, take my child to school, pick my child up, go home, go to church, go to my friend's house, do this. And it was the exact same stuff over and over again. There was no growth. And where there's no growth, there's stagnation. And where there's stagnation, there's stink.
So you feel the life draining from you, the life that you knew you possessed. It was somewhere inside of you, but you're stagnant. You're doing what's comfortable. Did you feel it actually just leaving you, Tracie?
Man, I was literally, I was addicted to television. I was addicted to doing the same thing every week. Every Thursday night, there was a particular television show. I'm not going to name it, but you'll know when I say that I was sitting there drinking wine and eating popcorn. So, and that's what I did every Thursday night. And not that that's necessarily bad, but if that's the highlight of your week, is watching something that's not real and living vicariously through it, that's not living. And honestly, God had been trying to get my attention, and I just kept ignoring. I'm good. I'm comfortable. And then I went for my mammogram, and there was a problem. So I had to go through the whole biopsy and ultrasound and all of this stuff. And as I was waiting for the results, I was lying on the couch and I was like, Lord, no matter what the results are, I'm done just sitting still. Show me how I'm supposed to be living. And I committed from that point forward, I was going to pursue my purpose in life. And praise God, everything was benign. And at that point, he was like, okay, so now what you finna do? You ready? We're going to do this. And I went on a journey. And it literally took me about a year and a half to figure out that what I was supposed to be doing was helping others fulfill their purpose in life. That's my purpose. My purpose is to help you fulfill your purpose. And along the last few years, as I've been just really building my business and fine tuning things, my purpose is with women entrepreneurs, helping them build their businesses and build legacy.
You just wrote another book. As far as I'm concerned, you wrote another book, took us intimately into your life, which makes it all very applicable. I know that there are women that will say, man, Tracie did it. She made a move. I can too. And that's what's supposed to happen when you're as transparent as Tracie L. James. Wow. Excuse proof leadership. Is that your latest book, or do you have another one out? I can't remember.
That was my first book. My second book, actually, it's almost like a prequel to this book, because I wrote the Zero Excuses Challenge because I was working with business owners, helping them build their teams, but I realized that there was some personal development that needed to happen. So in the process of helping them fine tune themselves personally as leaders, I wrote a second book called the Zero Excuses Challenge, and it's a 21-day challenge. And we go through 21 different aspects of your personal development, your mindset, over, defining what excuses are your typical excuses. Everybody has a specific type of excuse they make. And understanding what those excuses are and what's behind the excuse. What's at the foundation of it? What's at the root so you can uproot it? And taking you through 21 days of really focusing in on who you are as a person and then as a leader.
Wow. What an awesome workshop. Gosh, come
Yes.
away transformed.
So that was the second book. I'm currently working on, I actually have two book projects I'm working on right now. One is a collaboration that is focused on helping entrepreneurs manage their money personally and within their business. And then the other is one that came from my time in a call center.
Oh, wow.
I worked in call centers multiple times throughout my career. And anyone who's ever worked in a call center will tell you that is almost like feeling like you're in the pit of hell. Between the customers and the management and the metrics and the requirements, it's a tough space to work in. And so I wrote what I called were the commandments of internal customer service. So it's more about taking care of the people who take care of your customers. And so that's another book project that I'm currently working on right now.
Wow. All things leadership. All things leadership. Tracie L. James took us on her life's journey and opened up so that all of us can really understand we have to have solutions and no excuses. I mean, you did phenomenal things at an early age, and you learned how to manage your energy, and you told us everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are no more excuses. Let's search for the solutions. Wow. Is it any wonder that the magazine chose you to be one of 25 powerful women to watch for the month of March? I've been telling people, not just for the month, watch these folks the rest of your days, because from this lineup, there's a wellspring of help and health and life. So, wow. Thank you, Tracie. I'm looking at the time. I could go on. These conversations go on and on and on with me, but I respect your time and I respect what the magazine's looking for. So I'm just going to say, I have to get one more question. You've been writing some fabulous articles for WomELLE. Are you still writing articles for the magazine? Because
Yes, I am. I have renewed my commitment. I had a rough year. My mother had a stroke a few years ago, and it was difficult for me to get the writing done every single month. But this year I made a commitment. Every single month, I'm going to get that article in because I want to impact women leaders and help them be their best.
Well, I tell you what, I have it right here. the one you wrote about the history that was made in Texas. All of these women are judges, and you being residing there in Texas and bringing that article where these women, this is noteworthy, and you brought that to the forefront. That's why I say you're a leader's leader, but hands down, a leader's leader. So thank you. Looking forward to more articles there in WomELLE. So I'm Margo Lovett. It's hard to shut this one down, but alas, I must. I will see everybody with the next interview, the next conversation, that with another powerful leader, another powerful woman to pay attention to, not only in March, but the rest of your days. I'm Margo Lovett. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.